Okay, I'd like to make a motion to reconvene in our special session. Can I have a
Moved.
second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And I'll make a motion to adjourn the special meeting.
Second. So moved.
Okay, and a second. Moved by Board Member Jackson, second by Mr. Brown. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, then at this time, we will call to order the board meeting of the Scottsdale Unified School District. Today is June 24th. The time is 2:22. And please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
George Jackson.
Pam Kirby. Barbara Perleberg.
Denny Brown.
And Bonnie Sneed. First item on the agenda is item 4, public hearing on proposed fiscal year 2014-15 expenditure budget and truth in taxation notice.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. No, we'll have the presentation first, and then we will have public comment. So before you vote on the adopted budget, so Mr. Daniel Bryan, our CFO, has a short presentation regarding the expenditure budget for this fiscal year 2014-15.
Good afternoon, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Peterson, Sandra. This afternoon, I'll just give you a brief overview of the adopted budget. Last board meeting, we looked at a little bit more detail on the proposed budget before publishing it, and there has not been any significant changes. So this will be just a quick overview, reviewing a little bit of what we went over last board meeting for the adopted budget. Again, just a brief overview of the state budget. The proposed budget just a little under $9 billion for the whole state, providing some additional $85 million for K-12. Most of that is in the form of the inflation increase to the base level amount, which this year the inflation was 1.4%. We had a slight increase for Arizona State retirement of 0.06, and that's both on the employee and the employer side, so both sides got that increase. We had $17 million for K-12 school repairs and maintenance grants from the SFB. Now that's statewide, and this is the program that the SFB has adopted in place of doing the preventative maintenance and building renewal formulas that they have been doing for the past several years due to Students First legislation. They have last legislation, they repealed that law, and so this is the replacement for it. It's not a lot of money, but it is some for the whole state, and we do actively, Scottsdale does actively submit for grants for that and do get some of them for repairs throughout the district. And then, of course, we have our student success funding. Again, when we did the proposed budget, we were hoping that by the end of June we would be getting these final numbers from ADE, but we don't have them yet. So as soon as we do get them, they will go into the budget. Again, we've used some estimates that the ADE uses, so we are fairly close, but when we get the final numbers, you'll be seeing those in a future revision of the budget. Few overviews of our proposed budget, or adopted budget. The base level increase, again, is up, the 1.4% for inflation at $3,449.42. We do have some decline in our ADM, our average daily membership. Again, we are going into the second year of the phase down for the M&O override. So this year was the third phase down. Next year will be the third phase down. So it'll be a total of 2/3 phase down of the 10% M&O override. The career ladder is phasing down from 1% to 2%, and that will be, next year will be the last year of Career Ladder. So from a lawsuit and court order that Career Ladder is unconstitutional, we are allowed to phase it down over a 5-year period. So next year will be the last. And again, Career Ladder is a program that goes towards teachers' pay for professional development and a plan that they put together. Our TEI, or our Teacher Experience Index, has gone up. This is basically our experienced teachers compared to the state average across all the districts in the state of Arizona. We have the Classroom Site Fund, also known as Prop 301, at $295 per student. This is down slightly from this year, where we're at $310. Most of that decline is not due to sales tax revenue decline, because that's where this money comes from. Most of it is this year we got a little bit of one-time funds that was from revenues that were in excess of what was proposed in some prior years, so we got some catch-up dollars. Again, we have our ASRS contribution impact of 0.06, and again, this is on here to show that anytime ASRS goes up, we have to find the monies, and it comes out of the employees. The legislature doesn't fund ASRS costs for employees, so when it goes up, we have to find this within our budget to pay for it. We have our budget balance carry forward of $2.7 million. Again, this is still an estimate. We are getting close as we're closing out the final fiscal year over the next couple of days. Although we do have 60 days after June 30th to finish paying some bills and closing out some items, we're looking at being right at this level of $2.7 million. Then we have the state quarrel reductions that are continued. These have been going on for several years. If you remember this year, so a year ago, for this year's budget, the state changed what we were getting in capital. We had the unrestricted or quarrel capital, and then we also had the soft capital. State took the soft capital away, renamed the quarrel and unrestricted capital as district additional assistance, and rolled up. When they took soft capital away, they just really took the name away. They rolled the dollars up into quarrel, so we still get the dollars. But there are reductions of close to 60% in that money that we don't receive as the state uses it to balance their budget. This is just a brief review. We've made some small changes to the tax rate just now that we're getting closer to the end of the fiscal year. This is still just estimated for next year. As we are working right now to close out the fiscal year, we'll be sending the paperwork actually to Maricopa County. Maricopa County is the one who sets our tax rate with input from us. Usually Maricopa County doesn't change it. They might tweak it a penny here or a penny there based off some information, but this should be really close to what it gets. And you can see the decline due to some of the override, but then also just assessed valuations going up in other areas that are helping our tax rate. This table should be a familiar one. We've shown it a couple times. Again, always paying attention to our taxpayers of Scottsdale. We continue to maintain the lowest tax rate amongst our peer districts. So being cautious of that every year when we look at this. And then this is just a quick overview of the major funds here. We have our maintenance and operations fund. Again, $143 million. This is where our M&O lies. M&O override and K3 override lies. So again, it has the phase out in there. And then obviously it's down from this year also due to some ADM. And then we have our unrestricted capital. Remembering that this dollar figure has our capital override. So our capital override is $9.9 million that we get every year. Some years we have some carryover and other items. So these are dollars that go to the unrestricted capital of just over $17 million. And then federal grants at 9.1. This number, we haven't gotten all of our allocations. It's based off of an estimate of our allocation, so this could go up or down with the next revision. But again, it's within our grants. It's restricted money to those grants, so they fund those programs within those federal grants. And then asking the governing board this afternoon to request the approval of the fiscal year 15 adopted budget. Thank you.
Do board members have comments or questions? Okay, we are going to change the agenda just a little bit so that the public comments can come before the vote. One card here, Allison Beckham.
Does it matter that it's not about the budget? The comments about something in the agenda, but it wasn't the budget.
It's true. We don't have any public comments.
So-
Okay, we'll
so
come
later.
back in a minute. Okay. So at this time, the board needs to consider adoption of proposed fiscal year 2014-15 expenditure budget. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
I second it.
All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 All opposed, 0. Thank you. The motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
So item 6, public comments. Ms. Beckham.
Madam Board President, board members, Superintendent Peterson, and Board Secretary. My name's Allison Beckham. I am actually a graduate of Scottsdale High. I've lived in the district most of my life. 2 of my kids attended school here, and I don't have kids in the district, but I still live within the district. I want to thank you for taking the time that you took to discuss the school vision and goals last Thursday, June 19th. I'm going to be referring to that meeting and to the strategic plan and goals and measurements that you have on the agenda on page 37 and 38. The work session that I saw on the 19th, and I listened to it. Obviously, I wasn't there, but I found it to be very collaborative, strategic, and professional. It was an effort I truly appreciated because I felt it was one of the first times that I saw you as a board and as a group willing to work together to really understand, to engage, and to participate in developing a better school experience and raise student achievement. I agree and embrace the 4 strategies or goals that I heard: employee satisfaction, employer of choice, communication, external and internal, financial stability, and finally, to me, the most significant, student achievement, college and or career ready at graduation, which unfortunately, in my view, just received the least amount of time and energy and dialogue, and I felt it was probably the most important. But I believe that some great ideas and actions and resources were discussed, and I do believe that the exercise that you took into account on the 19th was very valuable and necessary. I did hear some viewpoints that I respectfully disagree with, and I would like to offer a different opinion so as to be taken into consideration when making your decisions on these goals and measurements. I am going to talk fairly quickly because I know I'm limited time. I first heard without the additional financial resources or money that we can't achieve our goals. I secondly heard that the November override bill defeat was a result of lack of communication, touting the benefits and successes of the district. I heard that, people just don't know us, that they don't understand all the great things we're doing. And thirdly, I heard that enrollment is declining because of competition. I respect those opinions. I think that as I sat back and I actually wrote a little something on each one, what I came to the conclusion is that they seemed to me to appear to be more of an excuse and placing responsibility outside of your control. And I happen to believe that responsibility is within your control. But because if you have the attitude that it is outside your control, then you will be denying yourself the ability to move forward. Okay. All right. So what I will do is write you a quick letter with my thoughts in it. One of the things that I wanted to just say that I can't say in a short period of time. What I will say is that I believe that this board has the authority and the manpower to make effective changes on your own. You're not held by the state or the federal government. You, the SUSD board, has the ability to make transformational change if you engage the knowledge and willpower to make effective policies and leadership changes. However, you will have to make yourself vulnerable and open to new ways of producing a better student. You will have to be different from what you have been doing the last 3 years. You'll have to be courageous, outspoken, and willing to lead. So I am, 30 seconds, I am pleading with you to really take the time to develop a strategic plan with honest goals and measurements, to take the time to really creatively and thoughtfully make an effective plan for leadership to follow. If you need help in developing the strategic plan, please ask for it. Otherwise, we'll be in the same position as we've been in the last 3 years. Thank you.
Since that's not on the agenda, we can't respond.
Al? Madam President, members of the board, that subject is on the agenda, but it's my understanding you do not intend to discuss that. You're going to table
Well,
that?
that's on in the next meeting. It's because we're adjourning this public hearing and then calling to order a regular meeting, and we haven't approved the consent, or we haven't approved the agenda yet.
Okay.
For the regular meeting.
So right now you cannot respond in
Right.
in specific. You can ask someone from administration to follow up with the speaker.
Want to do that? Okay. And if there's, at some point, you want to respond when we're in the meeting that has it on the agenda, then we can. Although, my intent to pull it from the agenda because we have kind of decided to. I know. So we'll have someone from administration follow up. Absolutely. This whole meeting inside of a meeting after another meeting. Yes, Mrs. Kirby.
Is there any downside? Board Member Jackson would like to respond. Is there any downside to allowing him to do that?
In the next meeting, if it remains on the agenda, he can respond.
So he could respond before we take it off the...
It's a little bit of a gray area.
My life is...
I want to thank Mrs. Beckham for her comments and would love her input. That's all I
Okay,
want to say.
thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you. And sorry for all the confusion, but we seriously have had a meeting within a meeting and then another meeting, then a hearing before a meeting, and it's very unusual. So at this time, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
The motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. So the motion passes 5-0. Now, to prove the point, we are going to call to order the regular meeting. Do we have to do, we don't have to do a roll call and all that again? What we have on the agenda? So the first item on the agenda for our regular meeting is approval of the agenda. And this is where I was going to ask to remove item 13, A and B, district goals and superintendent goals, because on the June 19th meeting, the board indicated the desire to continue discussions in August.
I move to approve the agenda as amended.
I seconded.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Passes 5-0. And we'll have superintendent comments.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam President, members of the board, and the public. Thank you for being here this afternoon. We have passed our adopted budget for this coming year. I can tell you a couple of updates. One, as most people know, the state of Arizona lost the lawsuit regarding school funding. We are told right now that the judge has until July 9th to make that ruling, and she appears to going to take all of that time. And so we will not get that ruling until July 9th, and then we will see if the state decides to appeal. But we're still in a holding pattern, and we believe that that will take place. So just a quick update there. I'm very proud to announce that we have some folks in our audience that are going to be moving into some leadership positions into the district with the votes that's moving forward. We have a new PIO. She's out on assignment right now, but she will be starting for us, I believe, the first week of July. It's Ms. Christine Harrington. She's a reporter currently for Channel 3 TV, and she will be our new PIO. We're very excited. She's going to be a great addition to our team, and she's already put forth some wonderful marketing ideas for us. Next, I'm proud to announce the new principal of Sequoia Elementary School, Miss Veronica Leeper. So Veronica, thank you. We're looking forward to that. Veronica served there as the assistant principal, and we know she's going to keep on keeping on. So we're very excited there. Next, the principal of Cheyenne Traditional School, Grace Stombres, is not here. She's actually across the pond in Italy. She sent me an email this morning just wanting to let you all know that she's thinking about you, but she is in Italy right now, and she will be coming back in another week, and she'll be starting, and she's already started some work at Cheyenne. So we're very excited for Grace, who was the assistant principal at Chaparral High School. She's actually meeting with the mafia, I think, so we're going to be in good shape. So we're next. I'm very excited to also announce our principal of Supai Middle School, Miss Shelley Humman, is here. So Shelley, congratulations. Shelley has served as the assistant principal at both Pima and Hohokam this last year, and she's done a great job going back and forth, and she's looking to stay on one campus the whole day. So we're very excited for that. And then finally, I'm very proud to announce, and he has his children here with him, our next principal of Arcadia High School, Mr. Nathan Slater. Nathan, you want to introduce your kids, Nathan? All right.
This is my daughter, Morgan. She goes to Pueblo. This is my son, Ian, and he goes to Pueblo, and he's for his new Arcadia house.
All right. So we're excited there. We have some future Arcadia students in the mix, so we're very excited. We have some great leadership, but we're very, very happy that they're able to be here with us today, and we're very proud of that. Also, as we talk about staffing, I'd just like to give you a quick update. We've been working hard to make sure that all of our positions are filled for this coming year. Currently, we have 3.5 FTE in special education that is yet to be filled, so we've done a great job in special education. And we have 30 certified positions approximately that are still out there, but they're in the middle of being hired and interviewing right now. So we are closing very quickly of having all of our positions filled in the next few weeks. The one gap we do have, we're a little nervous about. We believe we'll be able to make it happen, but we currently have 22 bus driver positions open. So if anyone wants to drive a bus for us, we are wanting to bring you into the fold, get you trained, and get you ready for the first day of school on August 6th. But we're doing well with staffing. We're very happy with that. Also, just prior to this meeting, I attended the Scottsdale Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors and their meeting, and they voted to give us a full endorsement for our November override. So we were able to just obtain that full endorsement from the Scottsdale Chamber of Commerce just this afternoon. And then finally, kind of on a bittersweet note, I do need to acknowledge a good friend, a good colleague, and a wonderful person who has served Scottsdale schools very well for the last decade. And he's been a man of honor. He's been a man who has stayed true to his word. He's supported Scottsdale. He's done great things with our community, helped build a lot of things, helped us with our strategic plan. And that is, we would like to say goodbye to Dr. Jeff Thomas. Jeff is going to be leaving Friday for his journey north to the northwest. He will be starting next week in the Bellevue School District. So say hi to Microsoft and Bill Gates and send some money our way. So Jeff, good luck, and thank you for your service here in Scottsdale Schools. And that concludes the superintendent's comments.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is consent agenda. Mrs. Kirby.
Yes, I'd like to remove item 11U.
So pull that for discussion.
Yes, please.
Can I have, Mrs. Perleberg? No, just,
And I'd like to make a request to remove item L,
L?
11L, yes, for discussion.
So can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended?
I move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
And a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. The motion passes 5-0. So item L and item U will be considered separately. First, if we have discussion on item 11L, approval for the Scottsdale Affiliated Administrators Employment Agreement for fiscal year 2014-15. Mrs. Perleberg, you asked to have that.
Yes, yes. It's, my request for discussion isn't specifically about an item in the agreement itself. It's going through it. There's a change in the agreement that I think has a consequence for members of our employees, and it's a benefit of SLT that has been removed from the agreement, and it basically, consequently, there's members of our administration that their compensation has to be fairly adjusted for the removal of this benefit. Dr. Pearson, you can step in and clarify any time that you want. So what I'm requesting or would like to discuss at this point is, as we, as a board, consider this item and the employment agreement, I'd love to spotlight the subsequent decisions that our administration will have to make to fairly compensate the employees that are affected by that change. And I would like to have a lot of transparency in that decision, because it has been an issue that's been spotlighted by our community. And I think it would behoove us all to have a very clear understanding of what this item change in the agreement means specifically to these employees, and everyone have a clear understanding and full knowledge of the whole picture would be great for everyone. So,
Great. Thank you, Madam President, Ms. Perlberg, members of the board, if I may. Let me put a little bit of context to this, and then if you have more questions, I would definitely like to have that dialogue and answer it. Up until this year, it started years ago as the Learning Leadership Team, and then it transformed to the SLT, or the Superintendent's Leadership Team, many years ago, before I even came into the district, that team had a separate employment agreement, and it was approved at different times by the governing board, and it was outside of the administrator's agreement. It was done just with the SLT members. And this year, to try to align all of the things, we were given direction from the governing board to bring everybody under the same agreement as administrators. And I think that was laudable. I think that was a good thing. So we've done that. So in this agreement now has SLT members, those positions, not the people, but the positions specifically listed in the SAA agreement. They follow under the same SAA benefits, so all administrators will have the same benefits moving forward. That includes vacation, sick time, all of those other benefits that they're entitled to. And in doing that, we had to migrate from the SLT agreement. The SLT agreement had a couple of different things. There were some individuals in there that received a tax shelter annuity. That has totally gone away. So those folks have lost that compensation. They have given that up, if you will. Also, there was a benefit in there for family medical coverage. Under the Affordable Care Act, that can no longer be allowed because it would be considered a discriminatory practice for highly compensated employees. And if we were to do that, there's a large penalty that the Internal Revenue Service does to employers, us being one of them, regarding that, and that would violate some of the issues that we have regarding our health plans and those things. So we've taken that benefit out, taken it away, but those individuals came to us with that compensation package. They made decisions to come to work for us based on their total compensation. So they would actually be going significantly backwards in some cases. So the recommendation that I have made after a lot of discussion, talking with a lot of legal counsel, with a lot of advisors in the medical industry, is to and a lot of districts and employers are doing this with those individuals that had that compensation, is to put it into the base salary. So that is a recommendation that I have moved forward with. And to be transparent, that's what we're doing. They will no longer have a separate benefit. Their compensation will be adjusted accordingly to make that happen. Let me just put this in perspective. Last year, the total dollars spent for all of the SLT members for their salary, their benefits, and those things totaled $1,579,000. Based on the elimination of positions, based on the restructuring of the benefits, the salaries, and all those things this coming year, that total is $1,173,000. We have cut the compensation and the budget that has gone to the SLT team by reducing positions, reducing benefits by over $400,000. That's an over 26% reduction. So our leadership team has contributed over $400,000 to help balance the budget. That's in addition to the other district administrative and administrative support positions that we have reduced to help balance the budget. And we've lost positions. It's going to be tough next year. We haven't lost mandates. We haven't lost work. Matter of fact, we've gained more work, and yet we have lost people to do that work. And so I'm trying to do everything I can to keep that team together, to keep those folks whole, and allow them to move forward with the compensation they have, to be fairly compensated, but at the same time recognizing we do have budget constraints, and we are pulling together and to collectively to give back $400,000 from $1.5 million down to $1.1 is a pretty laudable thing. So that hopefully answers that overall issue, and I'll be happy to answer any other questions. I know Michelle also would be, although Michelle has a little bit of a conflict because she is part of that team. So I don't think she would be able to give legal advice, but we did get a last email, and I don't know if you forwarded that to the board or not, Michelle, but we did get a final email from the tax attorney, Steve West, came in just this afternoon. I saw it, that he concurred with the recommendation from Aon that we need to roll that into the base package because of Section 125H, I believe it is, in the IRS code that we would be in trouble to violating. So you could forward that. What is it? 105H. 105H. So you could forward that to the board, but they did concur with the Aon recommendation. So that hopefully answers those questions, and I'll try to answer anything else I can for you.
Mrs. Kirby? Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Peterson. I have become familiar with, said, so many of the moving parts of this decision that you've had to make, and it is a complicated one. That's very clear. And there is those legal aspects, there's liability aspects, and everything. I think what I'd love to do moving forward, and certainly as we look to the goals we have in the fall before November, I appreciate very much what you're saying, and I do feel there's a good story here to tell that is an entire picture, that those community members, budget committees, and other stakeholders that have looked at this pot of money, shined a spotlight on it, unfortunately, or just in asking about it, to really have clarity on where it went, that type of thing, and the entire picture of how the compensation packages have been fairly examined, looked at as they had to change under this new rule. I'd just love to move forward with that type of transparency where we know there's questions out there. I think as we head into towards November, the worst thing working against us are all the answers that are wrong out there about these types of questions, all the misunderstandings, all the misperceptions, or just lack of information. And so I'd love to kind of use this as a starting point for us as just that working towards a transparency in the leadership decisions that we make. tough ones, easy ones, those types of things. So I mean, obviously, yes, for this meeting, you've provided a lot of information, great. I think there's even more that paints a picture of how much thoughtfulness went into your process of making this decision. I'd just love to have that highlighted for our community, that thoughtful process as well. So that's just a comment to it. Thank you.
Mrs. Kirby?
Thank you. Mirroring what Board Member Perleberg said, I guess I'm glad we were able to pull this off consent and have a little bit of dialogue about it. Dr. Peterson, you mentioned in your comments that there was a separate contract document governing members of the SLT, and that has been superseded by the SAA agreement. And I would like that reflected in the minutes, please, that old SLT contract is nevermore. Secondly, I think for purposes of the public, what the board is voting on today is the agreement. It is the contract. It's the components of the contract. It is not the salaries that SLT members will be receiving. That is a superintendent decision. That is not a board decision. Is any part of that incorrect? Is that a correct statement? Okay. So this new SAA agreement, by rolling the SLT members under this agreement, it brings transparency, and that's a good thing. It also addresses the dependent medical and removes that from their compensation package, and that's a good thing. And those are the components of the contract that I'm looking at in particular as I cast my vote tonight. But I want to make it very clear that that is where it stops. My vote does not continue on to any salaries that are granted to SLT members above and beyond that.
Do any other board members have questions? Comments for Dr. Peterson?
Can I just want to make sure, sorry for interrupting.
Because I do as well.
That in the agreement, though, there is a salary range for SLT, and so I just want that
Agreed.
to be.
I support the range.
Yes.
But
I just want to be
we
clear.
don't. In fact, I don't know as a board member definitively what the actual salaries are going to be for the SLT members. I know the range because it's in the agreement.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And we have sent the preliminary information, but based on this vote, I will send a final sheet to everyone.
And I just wanted to make a comment that I'm glad that that we will have savings going forward, because by taking the cost of the family health insurance and putting that into base salary, we know historically that it's not very often that raises come to that kind of the same level of cost as health insurance goes up every year. So the district will recognize savings year to year to year, because at this point then it isn't automatic that the district will cover the increase in that insurance. If people understand that, the employees are going to be responsible for getting their own family insurance, and they will pay that increase. So we will have savings going forward. And I'm glad that what has been suggested will help us remain competitive for quality people in our workforce, especially with such drastic cuts to administration. It's going to be more important than ever that we are able to maintain quality people and hire them in the event of a vacancy. I also would like people to understand that we've discussed this for hours and hours and hours, and sought legal counsel and looked at where other districts are going and found out what kind of tax implications there would be, what kind of fine implications we might have if we didn't change the structure. And Dr. Peterson reduced the administrative dollars according to the Budget Committee's recommendations. And did just exactly what he was asked by the board. So I wanted to thank him. I know that the decisions that were made were very, very difficult, and it's been an ongoing process, and I hope no other board ever has to go through this again. Dr. Peterson, did you have any other comments that you wanted to make?
No, I think we're, the agreement has been reviewed with the SAA, which is the Administrator's Executive Board, and they have approved the addition of the SLT language into their contract, so it's very clear, into their employee agreement, so it's very clear now. We have one document for all administrators in the district, and I think that's a good thing.
So considering item, was it L, recommend that the governing board approve the tentative agreement between SAA and SUSD for salaries, benefits, and working conditions for the 2014-15 contract year. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes 5-0. The second item pulled for consideration was item U.
Thank you. Dr. Peterson and I have exchanged some emails on this, and I wanted to just clarify the process. So my question isn't so much about the actual amount, but it brought more questions, financial questions, not necessarily custodial questions, that I would like to get some visibility to. So when I looked at this item, which was the approval of the purchase of custodial services for $2.9 million out of M&O, as I was reviewing the agenda over the weekend, I thought, wow, we should be seeing productivity in that number from last year, because we are going to be, we've closed Tonalea, we're going to be mothballing wings, and so we should be getting some custodial savings. So I dug through old agendas, and I found in May of 13 where we had a similar action item, and it was for $2.9 million. So that led me to question, I had several questions, I should say, about the process of approving contracts versus how it links to the budget. And that's where Dr. Peterson and I started exchanging some emails. And so I'm going to ask those questions again, just for the benefit of the folks in the audience. So when we approve a contract, it's my understanding that in this case, and as in many cases, it's a not to exceed contract. So it's a $2 million not to exceed that amount. And we might actually be spending 2.6, 2.7. Is that, am I on the right track so far?
Yeah, Board Member Kirby, Madam President. Let me just add one additional item to that.
Okay.
So yes, in a majority of cases in a contract, we bring to the board a not to exceed amount. So in this case, custodial services. We do have practice and regulation, practice and procedure that if we look to go over that, we bring it back to you if it's over a certain dollar amount to then ratify again so that the board acknowledges that we will be going over that amount. Now, we have not done that for custodial services, but just make sure that full step is in there.
So I had asked Dr. Peterson this question. I did not ask you, and if you don't have it off the top of your head, maybe Dr. Peterson does. What was the actual amount in custodial services that we spent this current fiscal year that's about to end next week?
I can give you the two amounts. This past year was $2,700,000, just a little bit over that. This next year will be $2,616,000. So we're about $100,000 below where we were. And again, some of that gets impacted by rentals, and people pay for the custodial, and then we take the dollars from the rental agreement. But we're down $2.6 million.
So those are actual. So what are we actually budgeting as a discrete line item in next year's budget?
Sure.
Is
the $2,616,789.
That's the actual.
That's what we have right now in there, and that's what the PO has been put in the system for.
Okay, so we talked about communication last week on district goals, and I would just like to suggest this might be another opportunity to improve our communication to the public, because if we're only budgeting 2.7, 2.6, whatever the number was, why wouldn't our contract be a not to exceed around the 2.6, 2.7, as opposed to something much bigger than that?
You want to take that? Part of that reason is we do these as 5-year bids. And we renew it each year. It's first year and then 4 years of renewals. And in there, it's an estimate for what those services would provide. And sometimes it's added in the rental dollars and those types of things, because under state law, if we go over a 5% threshold, we have to come back. So, and Danny and I have talked about this. What we're going to do moving forward is saying, here's what is recommended for a not to exceed. Here's what's our current budgeted amount. Because we have to also, we don't know what the rentals are going to be this coming year. So we have to be able to plan for a little bit of that. But we want to be able to show very clearly, as you said, what are we actually going to spend ourselves? And so we're going to make sure moving forward that those recommendations have those numbers in there for everyone to see.
And I actually think I appreciate that. And I think it would be helpful beyond, when we have oodles of contracts that we approve throughout the year. And I'm just kind of picking on this one, sorry. But I think that would be helpful because our budget online, it's very hard to discreetly discern what are we actually budgeting with some of these vendors. And I think the public relies on our agendas to answer those questions. And so when they see that we're approving, a Coca-Cola budget of $250,000, they're like, wow, and maybe we're only spending $100,000. And so if we can tighten that up a bit, I think it would improve our communication.
And Board Member Kirby, Madam President, I think some of it too is, and not to use a word we shouldn't use, but some of it comes down to timing. When we're putting some of these contracts together, it could be April or May or June, and we're doing some estimates. So as Dr. Peterson mentioned, we will start working on trying to put some estimates of what we believe along with some historical values. The other item is when we talk about the 2.6, that's just in the M&O range. So we do have some custodial services, as Dr. Peterson mentioned, in the rentals and stuff. And then also we have what we hope never happens is emergencies. If we come in and somebody's vandalized and sprayed all the fire extinguishers all over the building. Well, we need that small capacity to be able to go out and allow those people to come in. And so it leaves us a little bit, if not, we'll meet every week so we can increase some of the not to exceeds. But that's some of where we use some of that cushion. But we can detail that out better in future agenda items.
Great, thank you. And again, I checked that off on the transparency box. I think it'll be a good thing moving forward. I know it's more work for you, but I believe it will go a long way with our community. So thank you.
Absolutely, thank you.
So
another item we had this last year was for marketing and those types of things. And the purchasing folks, because they don't really know, they're not the marketing folks, they put on a light item for $500,000. The reality is we spent $26,000. So there's a $480,000 difference there. People go, gosh, you spent $500,000. No, we spent $26,000. And it was based on what we got on bus ads that we put back into our marketing. So we have to give that detail so people understand it.
Right, so thank you very much. So with that, I move to approve item U, the purchase of custodial services issued through One Government Procurement Alliance contract.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you for that. The motion, or the next item on the agenda is information discussion item, the district technology plan update.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Mr. Tom Clark and Dr. Kyle Ross are going to present their work that we've been doing with our district technology plan and show you a little bit of some moving forward this coming year of some great programs that we have and great opportunities for students and teachers. And we're very excited. Technology is definitely in the forefront of a lot of what's happening in our classrooms, and our teachers are doing a great job, and we just appreciate everything that they do to keep these guys busy every single day.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Peterson and Sandra. She was here. It's been about a year since we had the opportunity to talk about technology and the technology plan. If you remember, just about a year ago, we brought forward a technology plan that had been written and developed by a district technology committee. We had lots of parents and teachers and administrators and some other community members participate in that endeavor. So now we're back. One, to tell you a little bit about what's happened in the year since that was approved by you, and to talk about how we're going to approach the next few years with technology and what that might look like. I want to just refresh your memory on a couple of things. The technology plan was broken out into 4 main categories, and so we actually had subcommittees that worked on each one of these topics, and then we pulled it together into the technology plan. And there's just sample goals there for what some of the outcomes of that. One of the tasks of the committee was to do a needs assessment of the district, and for each one of those 4 areas, and based on that needs assessment, the goals were set. So, so we're going to talk a little bit about that. A lot can happen in the technology world in 1 year. So like any good technology plan, it's got to morph over time. This diagram just kind of represents how each of those areas overlap and are interdependent. And obviously the target right in the middle of that, if you will, is student learning and student achievement. So if we're not doing that for that purpose, then we're really not doing our job. So right now, we are getting ready to enter into the new fiscal year, a new school year, 2014-15. And so we're going to talk to you a little bit about what we're going to do and what our strategies are for funding that plan for the next couple of years. And then after that, at some point, the district is going to have to come back and talk about how we would support a new initiative to fund technology, because we are approaching year 7 of the capital override initiative, and that funds a lot of things besides technology, fine arts, all of the different categories that we've had. And so we're approaching the end of that cycle. So how do we get by until, maybe get by isn't the right word, how do we plan for what we want to accomplish within that framework? So before I do that, I'm going to give you just a couple of quick highlights about some things that we have done this year. We have been updating computers across the district like crazy. Within the last 18 months, we've replaced over 3,000 computers. On top of that, we've added about 2,000 laptop computers, along with a host of other devices now that are basically all over our wireless network across the district. This year, Dr. Ross led the technology committee on a journey where they basically looked at the ISTE international standards for technology. It used to be called the NET standards, and now they're called the ISTE standards, at the administrative, teacher, and student level, and looked at how that's going to impact instruction and how that gets interwoven into instruction. Like I mentioned, we did a lot of mobile computer labs for middle and high schools. Middle and high school science departments have mobile labs. We also targeted 3rd grade teams, so every elementary school with a 3rd grade has a mobile lab for that grade level. And that was the first phase of what the committee had recommended that we begin to expand to provide greater access to digital resources. But we're going to have to pare that back a little bit so that we are able to make the best use of the resources that we have available. The park assessment, that was another big focus and was another driver behind updating all of those computers and computer labs. We participated with a number of other school districts in Arizona in the trial of the park assessment, online assessment. So we had 10 schools that did it online, and we had 10 schools that did it on the bubble sheet version of that. And I think the state is supposed to be using that to analyze, are they going to begin to offer standardized assessments online, or are they going to keep going with the paper version? I think a lot of districts are going to be in a much more challenging position than we are. We're actually in pretty good shape to begin to look at that process if we need to do that. and a lot of that is tied to upgrading all those old computers. We also got rid of any computer that runs Windows XP. If you're geeky enough, you know that Windows XP has basically expired and it's not supported anymore. So that's a real problem for a lot of school districts because there are thousands of computers out there. We are getting rid of the last of those this summer, so we should be starting the year with basically everything operating on a Windows 7 operating system. Of course, we also have Chrome devices and Apple devices, so the days of having one monolithic operating system are gone, but we've modernized the fleet, if you will. We've done a lot of work on the infrastructure. I won't go into all the gory details, but feel free to ask about any of those if you have questions. The other one is phones. I'd like to mention we're just over halfway done with replacing phone systems at our schools, and that's a core piece of communication, a core piece of school safety. So some of our legacy phone systems are approaching 20 years old, and we've just about resorted to eBay to find parts for some of them. It's that bad for some of them, but so we have to finish that, and so next year the goal will be to finish that across the district and have every school facility on one single phone system. So single sign-on is something that we implemented for teachers, for staff, and students, basically to simplify how you have to do business with the school district online. For many years, I've heard complaints that we have too many places to go to pay for books and to register and to check for grades, and so this puts it all into one little neat package online, one user ID and password, and you have access to a whole host of other resources. And then Google Apps, I'm going to let Dr. Ross talk to you a little bit about that in just a minute. I just wanted to show you with this just, one way to measure how technology is being used in the district. We had a science adoption, and we adopted from Discovery Education their online textbook software, and really it's all cloud-based, so there's nothing that you actually load on computers. You're accessing it all online. Integrates with the thousands of Discovery Education videos that students and teachers have access to. But you can see what a change in the usage this year. So pretty dramatic, and that's a big indicator that as we're shifting more and more towards a digital environment. The usage is there, and that's something we need to pay attention with as we go down the road in future curriculum adoptions and whatnot. It's not if they're going to have a technology component, it is what is that component going to look like. Talk a little bit about funding. Every year from the capital override, the district receives $4.7 million for technology. Of course, there's other funds from that, for curriculum, fine arts, athletics, all of those categories. But we have a carryover fund this year of about $600,000 that we held back, anticipating that we may need to strategize rather than just jump right into another funding cycle. So basically, my task from Dr. Peterson was to stretch this out and create a 3-year plan for these funds. So with the focus of the M&O override this November, we don't want distractions from that. So what will it look like if we have a 2 or 3 year period where we need to postpone, looking at another capital refresh? There's a lot of numbers on this screen. I'm not going to go to all of the details, but you can see some well-rounded numbers to kind of give you a sense of what that might look like for 3 years. $4.7 million sounds like a lot of money. But when you're servicing, 25,000 students and 30 campuses plus all the other facilities we have, it gets used pretty quickly. I like to think that we are very conscientious about how we spend those. We do a lot of research and, go through competitive processes to obtain the best pricing and whatnot for those resources. So just a couple of things I want to point out. A big one for next year is classroom projectors. If you remember at the beginning of the capital override, we outfitted basically every classroom in the district with a projector, and at the K-8 level they have a smart board. Every classroom has a document camera, an audio AV system that's tied to the computer, and those projectors are pretty much the cornerstone. A lot of technology is a visual medium, and if you can't see it because the lamp is fading, you basically are making all of those other tools obsolete. So we have plans to upgrade or replace about 70% of the existing projectors. The other 30% are either newer than the original purchase that we did in 2009, and we will also be able to to take some of those projectors and take out the lamps and save those and, cannibalize some of the parts to use in other projectors, so we can squeeze out every lumen of light out of those projectors. So, but it is something we really, really have to do. Otherwise, you're going to have to turn off a lot of that technology in classrooms. So, as you can see, our big focus on that, and like I mentioned, also finishing the phone systems across the district. And then, we kind of broke this up into three categories. What do we need to replace, such as projectors? Do we need to focus on maintaining, such as our software licensing? And how do we remain innovative? Because, like I mentioned, what happens with technology in a year changes dramatically. So, and part of that innovation is going to be focusing around Google Apps and the use of Chromebooks in the high school English programs. And again, Dr. Ross is going to give you some more information on that. So this is kind of a list of the IT kind of things that we're doing to finish upgrading the network, projectors, that type of thing, and expand support for BYOT, bring your own technology. We typically have, on a typical school day, between 6,000 and 7,000 wireless devices on our network, and it's already getting crowded in some places. So we know, for example, in high school science rooms, we need to go in and shore up the amount of bandwidth that we have access to in those hot spots, if you will, to kind of beef up the system where we have some gaps. And with that, I'm going to let Dr. Ross take over the podium and talk to you about the innovative part of next year.
Thank you. Good afternoon. On the first slide of this presentation, we showed you some sample goals that were written for the 4 key areas of focus in the technology plan. And just to quickly refresh your memory, for student learning, that goal was around increasing student access to online content and digital resources. For teacher professional development, the goal was related to a new next generation technology integration program to replace our old laptop program. Under leadership, the goal was around fostering a culture and climate of digital age learning. And for infrastructure, it was supporting a cloud-based one-to-one program. So there was a lot of language in the technology plan around a one-to-one program, and if this is a new term for you or if it's something that you've seen tossed around a couple of times, there are different ways to define what a one-to-one program is. Traditionally, many people define it as providing one device for one student. And that originally was our goal with the technology plan, and there's a reason why we are now 2 years later talking about how we are going to do this instead of talking about how it went this year. And that's because we wanted to take a full year and take some time to really explore what a one-to-one program actually is and look at some districts that have done it poorly and districts that have done it right, because we were teetering on the edge and could have gone the direction of doing it poorly, that being buying devices, giving them to students simply for the sake of saying that we have a one-to-one program and giving some students some devices. And what we found in looking at other districts who have had unsuccessful programs, that is essentially what they did. So we looked at some districts who have done it right, and what we found was that they took a curriculum-first approach to technology. So rather than talking about, let's talk about what technology we're going to put in the classroom, they looked at what are our curricular goals? What are our outcomes that we want from teaching and learning? And then let's look at how we can pair some devices with that teaching and learning. So the goal then changes from how we look at a one-to-one program, meaning one device for one student, and we take a look at our SUSD strategic plan where we talk about class size and personalized learning for our students, as well as technology improvements and innovations. And we change the definition of one-to-one, meaning one device, one student, to refer to the interaction, the personalized interaction that a teacher can have with a student. The tool that is used all over the world, over 180 countries, over 30 million students and teachers around the world, is Google Apps for Education. This is the tool that is being used by the districts that are successfully doing 21st century digital age learning. So you might hear the term Google Apps tossed around a lot. You might have personal Gmail accounts yourself and not realize that you have access already to these wealth of apps. But Google Apps for Education is a service, and I should add in there that it is a free service from Google that provides independently customizable versions of several Google products that are housed within our own private SUSD Google domain. So our students and our teachers don't have just a Gmail account, so mine isn't kross@gmail.com. We have our own SUSD Google domain, and within this domain, students and teachers have access to dozens of applications, including Gmail, Calendar, Docs, Drive, Groups, YouTube, Sites, and a bunch of others. Using these online applications, teachers and students can fulfill the international technology standards. They can fulfill our teaching and learning curriculum goals through collaboration, creativity, and innovation, and interacting with each other in a digital environment. So for a quick example, using the interactive Google Docs, a student can be writing an essay, or two students can even be working on a paper together, let's say. They can be at different locations, both looking at the same document, both typing on it, and one student in real time could see what the other student is typing. If they also have that document shared with the teacher can watch the students work on this project in real time, can highlight sections, can leave a comment, say, can you please clarify this statement? The student and teacher can engage in a dialogue on the side and work in real time, and that's that one-to-one interaction. Or for another practical example, this presentation that you're seeing is created within Google, and it is shared with a number of people who have visibility or edit rights. So you can see that Dr. Peterson is on here, and he has the ability to edit this presentation. So if he really wanted to keep me on my toes, he could actually change the slides that you haven't seen yet before they come up. And that is the...
Don't give him any ideas.
That's trust. So this is how we are changing the way that students and teachers can work together. So we've been working directly with Google and talking with their education team and their Chromebook team there, and what their recommended implementation of what they call Going Google looks like. And they recommend a 3-phase rollout. So the first phase we did in 2012-13, which phase 1 is core IT. So within our IT department, we began testing out the different features within Google and seeing from an IT and infrastructure standpoint how they would stand up on our network and everything, and then also from a teaching and learning standpoint, what were the possible uses of the Google Apps. At that same time, at Arcadia High School, we had a large number of teachers who were trying out Google Apps with their students and putting it into real-world usage to try and figure out the feasibility. And it was actually teachers at Arcadia and other campuses who came to us and said, we want to start using Google like the rest of colleges and universities and K-12 districts. Phase 2 are the early adopters, and this was what we did last year. And by the end of the year, we actually had students and teachers at every single one of our schools using Google Apps for Learning. Not all of the teachers and students, but some of the teachers and students at every school were using Google, and we were developing best practices for SUSD. This coming school year, 14-15, is where we are ready to go live and really encourage all of our teachers and students to start using Google for teaching and learning, as well as our operational departments are going to be using Google to manage their day-to-day business. And at the end of the year, we put together a short video that I'd like to share with you where you can see, rather than me telling you about the great things we can do with Google, we have some of our teachers and students demonstrating what we can do with Google.
Hi, I'm Jeannie Blum. I teach gifted at Redfield Elementary School.
Ryan Bogan, and I'm a 4th grade teacher at Laguna Elementary School.
Hi, my name is Sean Huffman. I'm an English teacher at Arcadia High School, and I use Google.
My name is Bert de Velde. I teach at Mojave Middle School, science in 7th grade. I'm going to put together 2 minutes here talking about the use of Google.
Google Drive is an amazing collaborative tool that my kids and I have been using a lot more lately. I'm able to create an assignment where the kids work together towards a common goal. Part of the Net Standards is all about how we can use collaboration and use technology to help our students grow.
Is if I go, say, to a document like this regionalism and local color, this is the assignment they're actually working on, and I go to share, rather than typing all of their email addresses, I can simply type English 3, period 5, 21 contacts. I would want them only to view it, not to edit it, and I can send this and put it right in their Drive box as well. So when they log on to their Drive, they can see the directions and they know what they have to do. So that makes it...
Another experience that I see, and I think that answers the question how it promotes learning, is that even when students are absent, they can participate. When we started doing this, one student was at home, had missed a lot of school due to some surgery, and the mom was almost in tears when she found out that at home her daughter could log in and work real time with her friends at school who were sitting with the laptops. I think it's a great example of student learning.
Because when you do a project, you can do a project together with your friends, and you can comment on each other's work, and then you can share with your teacher, and they can comment on with your work.
And that's important, I think, for the students. It's not only to be able to collaborate and collaborate real time and not be confined to school hours. It is also something that records the work and allows us as teachers to make assessments based on their actual contributions.
If we still use the Synergy Teacher Class website as the main teacher website and main point of contact for parents and students, then we can use Google Sites thematically to create websites such as this, which would be a literature unit. This one is based around the novel Frankenstein. So on the main page, we can have a link to an online version of the novel. We can have a video from YouTube that provides some background information for the story. We can have some various other pages that relate to it. So for Gothic fiction, another video that is a biography of the life of Mary Shelley, reading schedule, etc. So a teacher could use this Google site to manage the unit on Frankenstein along with the Synergy Teacher Class website.
Okay, using technology with the kids helps them with their college readiness, being ready for the 21st century, knowing what to do, how to work different computer programs. It also keeps them actively engaged in their own learning.
And why they should use it, I think it's the way of the future. Finally, we are supposed to prepare our kids for the future, for high school, for college. Having been there most recently, I know that's a platform that students work. So we would do them an immediate disservice by not getting them on the digital highway, basically.
I've created assignments where students can work together to reach a common goal. They start something at school and they go home and they continue to work with their peers, even though they're separated by great distances. They have the ability to comment on each other's posts, and most importantly, they are understanding that alone we can be good, but together we can be great.
So those are some of our early adopters of Google and what they were doing this year. So we are looking to expand and do more with it. And the good thing about Google, I mentioned, I believe already, that it is free, so it doesn't cost us to do this type of work. We do our own in-house professional development and to train teachers on how to do these things. And the other thing about Google is that it is device agnostic, so we don't have to have a PC or a Chromebook. Working on something like a Google Doc can be done on any mobile device that can reach the internet. So when Mr. Clark talks about the expanded use of BYOT in schools or classrooms where a lot of students want to bring their own devices, they can still do this Google type of thing no matter what device they're using. But another goal of the technology, forgot my order of my slides. In order to really get some good saturation on Google and get everybody doing it, this is the same model that we used last year for our technology committee, where we worked with the international technology standards. So what we'll be doing in this coming year with the SUSD technology committee is we are going to be asking for teacher representation from all of the schools to work on this committee, where throughout the year we will be working specifically with Google to develop best practices, lesson templates, Google Sites templates, and to create a repository of resources that teachers can use when they are ready to go Google and start doing these Google activities with their students. So that these are activities that are created by SUSD teachers for SUSD teachers. And then the idea is that those committee members will then go back to their school technology committee or to the PLCs, to the departments, grade levels, and they can share these the learning that they've done around Google and the resources that they've created. So the other goal within the technology plan was a next generation technology integration program. If you remember, our former program was around a laptop computer where teachers committed to a certain number of hours of professional development around using the laptop, but it wasn't curriculum specific. It was open to all teachers, and the professional development that they were receiving for the laptops wasn't necessarily specific to their subject that they taught. So when we started looking at what other districts are doing with one-to-one programs and how they are changing and doing a curriculum-first approach to technology integration, we started asking around with our experts, our curriculum specialists who work at the MDA, and asking them what their professional development plans were for the coming year. Through those conversations, we ended up having a nice long talk with Jonna Wallace, who is our secondary English language arts coordinator and our expert with everything English. And we found out from her that, like many other districts, her goals around professional development next year were around the writing process. So to us, that was a home run because we knew that Google Apps would be a perfect marriage with teaching the writing process. So we started talking about how can we offer a professional development program to teachers that from the ground up is not about technology, it's about curriculum, teaching and learning, writing, but is using a technology tool. So the tool that we landed on with this is the Google Chromebook and Google Apps for Education. So what we have designed is for this coming school year, we want to get as many high school English teachers as we can to participate in this. We have 14, but a spot for 15 committed in the first cohort, which begins the first week of school. And this is a 10-week e-learning for teachers professional development program where these teachers will receive a Chromebook and participate in collaboration and professional development, learning how to use Google Apps for Education in the teaching and learning process for writing in an English class. In the second and third cohorts, we hope to get as many of the other English teachers as possible to also commit to this program. Many of our schools have already committed their entire English department to get this training at some point in the year. We also are going to put 1 cart of 40 Chromebooks per school for these teachers who are participating to share so that they can do some of these Google activities with their classes with the Chromebook. And again, I just want to reiterate that this is curriculum-driven, and it's designed from the ground up as professional development in English with a Google focus and not the other way around. In 2015-16 is where we would look to expand this and add more carts, and the goal would be to have a cart of Chromebooks in every freshman level English class so that at the very least all of our freshmen are working on their typing skills and their collaborating and their online presence and all of these 21st century skills for at least 1 period a day, as well as any other classes that that teacher teaches. And then also by design, this program is scalable, and what we are doing, this isn't a pilot because this is how we are moving forward, but under Google's recommendation, they don't recommend that we do like some districts do and just roll out 20,000 devices. They recommend starting small, working the kinks out, so that when we get our next capital override funding and we are able to fund more programs like this, we have a product that is tested and proven, and we can then scale this out to other grade levels and other departments. And that's already happening because we have AP biology teachers who have seen what we're doing with this, and now they are voluntarily doing the same thing on their own. And we are going to see a level of collaboration and partnership between 2 schools in that AP biology program that we've never seen before, where we have 4 classes of kids across 2 campuses that are going to be working together in one big class. So when you think of 4 students working on a lab for biology, it might not necessarily be 4 students that are standing around one lab table, but 4 students that are at 2 different schools, and all of their work is online in the lab. So we're very excited about the potential there. You can look at this in more detail at your leisure later, but this is the advertisement that we put out to English teachers to recruit them, so to speak, to participate in the TIP program, and it goes into a little bit more detail about the college and career readiness standards and how this program will support it. So Google is something that we will be able to do. Just using Google, as I said, is free, and it is already happening. So on our existing computers, as well as the devices that our students are bringing from home, we can do some really amazing things with Google, along with the 30 million other students around the world who are using it. So that's a little taste of some of the good things that we'll be doing on the instructional side next year. So with that, Tom and I would love to answer your questions.
Mr. Brown.
On the BYOT, are we encouraging folks to donate their smartphones and stuff as we did with TechLink? Question 1.
We are not actively doing that. It's something that we've talked about and mulled around for a couple of years. There's a different level of difficulty than with the computers, but it's definitely a possibility that we could do something like that.
Second question, are we still, I see Cox is bumping speeds. Does that affect us in our Wi-Fi capabilities around the campuses?
Board Member Brown, the bandwidth that we get, since Cox is our internet service, or excuse me, they are our wide area network provider, the good news is that bandwidth over time is getting less expensive, and the district has been able to capitalize that in the last few years by basically getting more for our money. So we've been able to increase our internet bandwidth. For example, we're going from 200 megabit per second to a gigabit per second, which is what Google is telling everybody they want to put in their homes. That's a tremendous amount of bandwidth. I watch the meter, and we never hit, the bell never dings because we never hit the top of the meter with that amount of bandwidth, even with 30 schools and 25,000 kids. So.
And we are wireless everywhere now. Aren't all campuses done as of last year before or something?
That is correct. As I mentioned, we've got some places still that we need to fine tune because as the needs change, we need to be able to add different pieces of access points and additional access points in certain classrooms and labs.
Final question for me. So with the cuts that have been made, how's our support staff for all this? Or do we have people to do all this stuff?
That's a great question, Board Member Brown. This year, I did not mention, we basically reorganized the way that we provide technical support and took advantage of some of the new technologies that are out there and some of the enhancements that we've added to our own network. So we switched over to a model, instead of having technicians based at a school, the work that they do is based on the work orders that they're assigned. And so, for example, if you have one school with 5 work orders and you got another school with 25, well, we'll send 3 people over there to knock out those 25, and we'll send 1 person over there, instead of just saying, this is your campus, whatever you get is you get. So it's a lot more efficient model. It's a lot more typical of what you see in the private sector. The other thing we did that's really significant is really enhance the role of the help desk, the 484 help desk. We depending on what the workflow is, we have between 1 to 5 people manning that help desk. With the new phone system, we're able to do a call center type service, and they can also remote into basically any computer in the district and say, okay, Ms. Smith, let me show you how I'm going to fix your computer, and they can literally take control over that PC, and the teacher can actually sit there and watch what they're doing, fix the problem. We don't have to pay somebody to get in a truck and drive over there. The teacher doesn't have to wait for 2 days to get a technician over there. So to answer your question, we've become very efficient, but I don't know of any IT director that's going to tell you they've got all the staff they need. So
don't ever say that.
I won't say that, but we're being as efficient as we possibly can with the resources we have, and I feel like we've had a really successful year with the new model.
Thank you much.
And also, Board Member Brown, from the instructional support side, we still do have 3 instructional technology teaching and learning coaches who design the professional development and support the teachers, and their role is to help the teachers redesign their lesson plans with technology integrated. 3 coaches is not enough to support a district of this size, so that is one of the reasons that we have the distributed leadership model of the technology committee. So this year, those teachers who will be working with Google, they are going to become an additional point of contact on their campus, just as we have a synergy point of contact at every campus that can try to solve local issues and support. And when they can't, then we can get it up to the next level.
And I don't know if this is bragging or not, but one of those individuals, our technology coaches do an incredible job, and they are extremely talented. They are talented so much that one of them was actually hired away by ASU to actually do this work in their colleges for their professors, because ASU has realized their professors are so far behind, and they saw the talent and the productivity that we've been doing, and they actually hired one of ours away to go do that for the ASU professors. And so that shows you the talent and the professionalism that our folks have.
Thank you.
Mrs. Kirby. Thank you for the presentation. No doubt, a good product. I've seen my own daughter use it, and I'm quite amazed by it. I wanted to ask you, though, about the rollout and implementation, because I think that's where we get in trouble often in our district, is we have really good ideas and it just we don't think through the implementation and rollout as thoroughly as we probably should sometimes. Couple that with a concern that I know I still have, and that's putting more change on teachers' plates. I hear you say words like teachers redesigning lesson plans, and that makes me nervous because, and I guess my question is this a volunteer participation on the part of teachers, or is this we need all teachers to be through this by a certain date?
Board Member Kirby, it is a voluntary. All of our technology integration around instruction is voluntary. So we've not set deadlines where all teachers need to be using Google or anything like that. But furthermore, this we don't really consider this to be a new thing that we're putting on. It's a continuation of previous goals around technology that we had set. So when we first wrote the strategic plan, for example, there was no way for us at the time to predict that Google Apps would be what it is, or that we would have Wi-Fi on every campus. So this is us keeping pace with other school districts and the rest of the world, and a continuation of the work that we're already doing. So while all change is scary, we don't feel that this is something new that we are bringing and saying, hey, this is something new for you to worry about now. The teachers who have, the early adopters who have volunteered to take this on, they love it, and they love the change that it's, the way that it's made it easier and convenient for them to teach. So.
Okay, so the slide before this said the first cohort starts in August, and it's a 9-week professional development. Is that 9 consecutive weeks of professional development? Or is it spread out over 18 weeks?
It's 9 consecutive weeks, and they are modules.
Okay.
So within 1 week, for example, the teachers will be working specifically with one Google app, and they'll be learning how that app works, what the features are, and then they will, try an implementation with their students. And then the following week, they'll learn another feature in another app and slowly build the jigsaw puzzle to see how all these different apps work together, with a culminating project that being a Google site where they can manage the unit with a bunch of app integration.
And then when does the second cohort start?
The second cohort is going to start after October break.
So, it's important to me personally, and I'm glad this is the strategy to make this volunteer-based, because I suspect it will be more successful long-term.
Well, we need to meet not just the teachers, but our district leadership and department heads, and this is not just for our teachers and students. This is for all our employees and staff. We need to meet them all where they are, and not necessarily where we want them to be. So. I personally spend a lot of time with district folks, and I go one-on-one and show them what they know from other products, and then show them how it's transferable into Google. So we're not just saying, okay, here's your Google login and have fun. We got to meet them where we are, where they are, and steer them where we want them to be.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Jackson?
I'll be brief. Dr. Ross, Mr. Clark, very impressive presentation. I want to thank you very much for all your hard work on this, and I'm just blown away. I always am when you talk about this, Tom. And I also wanted to say, Dr. Ross, I appreciated your approach to have this curriculum-driven, of course, and looking at other districts and districts that have been successful and unsuccessful. I mean, that's what wonderful approach, and I think,
absolutely.
And the fact that we're, using our resources, we don't have a lot of excess resources. And it appears to me from your presentation, you're stretching resources as far as possible, and very impressive. Thank you. You guys are doing a great job. Thanks.
Thank you.
Mrs. Perleberg?
I will echo, continue on with the praise. It's excellent presentation. It's clear we are in a brave new world when it comes to all of this, and very happy in SUSD we have such talented people to guide our children through it, because goodness knows they're a lot better at it than I am. Also, kudos for your staffing models that are seeing more efficient and more, as you stated, more business related, or it follows a business model. I think that's very impressive. I think in this day and age, as our public schools are kind of under pressure to be more of that like a private sector type of business, I think that's excellent. So kudos to that. I did wonder too, the abilities that our teachers have to go in and see the teachers who've already set up plans. have already integrated all of this into their lesson plans. What are the abilities of other teachers just being able to kind of log in and see what they're doing there?
And that is the whole idea of what we want with teachers creating things for other teachers. So in the example of Google Sites, if I am, let's say, a language arts teacher, and I want to create a website for a unit, in the example in the video is a Frankenstein unit, and they go to create a new site, we have a gallery here, and right now we just have we have a strategic plan, but for instructional we have one demo site here that the teacher can access, and it's a template. And I will show you what that looks like. So they get a template which is already populated with some different tabs along the side, and on each tab it explains to the teacher what to do. So on the unit overview, it asks them to provide an overview of their unit here, etc. So they can take this template and plug in their own information. But in the case of my Frankenstein example, if I am a English 2 teacher and I'm teaching Frankenstein, and there's another teacher in my department and they want, they're going to teach Frankenstein, they haven't done it before. When I taught a number of years ago, a teacher would come into my room and say, let me see what you have for Frankenstein, and I'd go to the file cabinet and I'd pull out a folder and I'd say, here you go, it's got tests and quizzes and articles and some other stuff in there, have fun. Now I can take my Frankenstein site that I've created and just give it to the other teacher and say, here's the site. It already has some instructional YouTube videos on it. It already has some documents, some articles on there. It already has a reading schedule and all these things. So everything that we do is shareable with other people, but it's all just shareable within Scottsdale. So it's safe for us to have these things and not worry that other teachers somewhere else are pilfering our materials, but within Scottsdale, they are available to everybody.
That type of collaboration is just so exciting and wonderful, and I'm sure our teachers are getting excited. Those who have really dived into this and seen the capabilities, they're going to be excited with that as well, and I think it's going to lead to great teaching, and it's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
I wanted to thank you so much as well. I don't know why this excites me a lot, and I think it's because of the collaboration, the possibilities for collaboration, and because if a teacher wants to, they can easily go back to a lesson that was created before, improve on it once they get feedback from the students. When they see something new that they think might relate to it, it's easy to go in and change it. I did have some security confidentiality issues as far as our students are concerned using Google, but I think can you address that specifically?
I can, and I have it bookmarked on my computer, but I can send you a link to Google's privacy page specific to Google Apps for Education, where they discuss FERPA and all those other things.
Oh, good. Okay, so they're aware of all that.
Compliance, yes.
Great. I saw Google Drives was one of the things that you highlighted. Is this something that if something is created, the student has to know what drive to go in and save it to, like it used to be in the old days, or is it automatically going to be, they just hit save and they know where to find it the next time?
Everybody has a drive. So the teacher has a drive, students have the drives, et cetera. So here's my drive, for example, and here is the presentation. So it's shared with me because Tom created it, and this presentation over here, Google Apps Plan, is mine. So if I shared it with Tom, it would appear under his shared with me. So on this section, these are all things that were created by other Google users but shared with me. Okay. So right now, that's how it looks when teachers share something with a student. It's under their shared with me list.
Your drive is your login.
Your drive, when you log in, you have access to your drive. However, Google has a brand new app that is being released in September, but we're on the preferred customer early release list. We'll be getting it in about a week. It's called Google Classroom, and it is a kind of a learner management system where students will join a teacher's class, and then it's a much cleaner way for students to see the work and for teachers to pass out and receive work digitally.
I'm just relating this to old technology where you had to know which drive to save it to, and if you
Yeah.
save it to the wrong drive, then you can't find it later, and this
Well-
looks like it's going to be, like that solves a lot of
And
those issues.
once you use it a lot, you could see my drive is packed with plenty of, I have my whole thing on here. And with students, the cool thing that I could have mentioned is that we have kindergarten students who have Google accounts, and they can save work within there and keep it. So 13 years from now, we could have a graduating senior who has kept 13 years worth of representative work. So when we talk about a digital portfolio, it could all be right there. But it does get messy with having all of these things. So we teach the students and the teachers how to use folders and this and that, but there is also a very easy search feature within there. So for example, if I just put in ITTLC, I could see a number of documents and folders related to my team. So yes, you could save something into a folder and be, well, where to go, where is it? But it's easy to find with the search feature.
Well, and I think this is really great for students in that it could be accessed from multiple formats and multiple devices. So you don't have to be sitting in front of the same device that you saved it in order to pull it up. And I think it would be really helpful as a teacher as well, once you build up your lesson plans, especially if you're absent, it's going to be right there for the sub. The only thing I would caution is our usage of the term one-to-one. And this goes back to a long time ago with an override where we talked about getting a computer for every student. I want to make sure that that is not the confusion. We don't want that out there, Mary Beth, that it isn't, that isn't what we're looking at this time. So that would be my only caution. But otherwise, I think this is very, very exciting. And it's free, which makes it even more exciting. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
So at this time, are there any future items that board members want to propose for future consideration? Mrs. Kirby.
Yes, thank you. I would like, after the summer break, when we come back in the fall, to have an information discussion item on our enrollment capacities and open enrollment policies. Essentially, how is policy interpreted and implemented, specifically with respect to the following schools: Arcadia High School, Ingleside Middle School, Hopi Elementary, and Cheyenne, which are our schools that are closest to at capacity. I would just simply like to understand how it works. Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, then we can adjourn. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Not everybody at once.
Second.
In a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much.